Hello, everyone. We're looking at what on earth am I here for? Talking about day 21, protecting your church. Okay, hopefully everybody has a church that they're going to and being involved in. And the book starts out with this. It says, unity in the church is so important that the New Testament gives more attention to it than to either heaven or hell. God deeply desires that we experience oneness and harmony with each other. Okay, it's extremely important. And it is your job, my job, our job to protect the unity of the church. Unity is that soul of fellowship, that part that makes you want to go in there and be with each other, that part that you're willing to openly share with each other, and that's what we need to protect, okay? So the book goes on and gives us some practical advice to keep unity in the church, okay? And the first thing it says is that focus on what we have in common and not our differences, and that is very important. Remember, it is God who gave us our differences. We should value those differences and not just tolerate them. It says, as believers, we share one Lord, one body, one purpose, one Father, one Spirit, one hope, one faith, one baptism, and one love. We share the same salvation, the same life, and the same future. Factors far more important than any differences we could enumerate. And that's hard because sometimes we want to focus on those differences instead of those things that we have in common. And I think that's just the devil wearing at us. And so we have to remember what we should be focused on. And conflict is usually a sign that the focus has shifted to those less important issues, to the differences that we have, okay? If we focus on our differences, division always happens. But if we concentrate on loving each other and fulfilling God's purposes, harmony will result, okay? The other practical way to keep unity in the church is to be realistic in your expectations, okay? The book says, once you discover what God intends real fellowship to be, it is easy to become discouraged by the gap between the ideal and the real in your church. Yet we must passionately love the church in spite of its imperfections. Longing for the ideal while criticizing the real is evidence of immaturity. On the other hand, settling for the real without striving for the ideal is complacency. Maturity is living with the tension, and that can be very challenging. Believers will disappoint you and let you down. If you've been in the church for any length of time, that is going to happen, and you may be the one letting somebody down or disappointing somebody, or you may be the one being disappointed or let down by somebody, or it could be, both of those situations. But believers will disappoint you and let you down. This is not an excuse to stop fellowshipping with them. They are your family. You need to make sure that you stay connected in spite of the differences, even if they've let you down. People get discouraged with church for many different reasons, okay? Divorcing your church at the first sign of disappointment or disillusionment is a mark of immaturity. God has things he wants to teach you and others too. Besides, there is no perfect church to escape to. Every church has its own set of weaknesses and problems, and you will soon be disappointed again if you're hopping from one church to another church looking for that perfect church, because it just doesn't happen. If a church must be perfect to satisfy you, the same perfection will exclude you from membership because you're not perfect. Let me read that one more time for you because I think it's important. If church must be perfect to satisfy you, that same perfection will exclude you from membership because you're not perfect. Even though we might want to think that we are, right? We're not. The next thing we want to look at is how to choose to encourage rather than criticize. God warns us over and over not to criticize, compare, or judge each other, okay? Whenever I judge another believer, 4 things instantly happen. I lose fellowship with God. I expose my own pride and insecurity. I set myself up to be judged by God, and I harm the fellowship of the church. A critical spirit is a costly vice, okay? So we need to make sure we're choosing to encourage rather than criticize. Another thing is that we need to refuse to listen to gossip, okay? Well, what is gossip? Gossip is passing on information when you are neither part of the problem nor part of the solution. Have we all been guilty of that? I know I have. And sometimes it's easy. You think, oh, we're just talking. Sometimes you need to put a stop to that talk. Spreading gossip is wrong, but so is listening to it. Okay, well, I'm just listening. I'm not actively saying anything, but I'm hearing it. Remember, it says that passing on information when you are neither part of the problem nor part of the solution. It is sad that in God's flock, the greatest wounds usually come from other sheep and not the wolves. It's from those other people in the church that hurt you. And unfortunately, that's very true. We also need to make sure we practice God's method for conflict resolution. If you're not sure what it is, you need to go to Matthew 18 and read it. Specifically, like verses 15 through 17, but I would suggest you read all of Matthew 18, okay? Private confrontation is always the first step. Take it to that person and say, hey, this is what's going on. Another thing that we need to make sure we're doing to practical advice to keep unity in the church is to support your pastors and leaders. There's no perfect leaders, but they are leaders that God has given to us as the church, and that the responsibility and authority to maintain the unity of the church falls on them, and we need to make sure that we're supporting them. We protect the fellowship when we honor those who serve us by leading. Leaders need our prayers, our encouragement, our appreciation, and our love. And that should be a simple thing, but it's also something we tend to take for granted. So make sure you're thinking about that when you're thinking about your leaders. You guys are students right now. That could be your parents. That could be your teachers in your school. That could, be your youth leaders, but also include your pastor and other leaders. And just remember, they need your prayers, your encouragement, your appreciation, and your love. Lastly, it says, God blesses churches that are unified, okay? It's something that we have to strive for and something that God will bless. So here's the question that the book says to you, okay? What are you doing personally to make your church family more warm and loving? There are many people in your community who are looking for love and a place to belong. The truth is, everyone needs and wants to be loved. And when people find a church where members genuinely love and care for each other, you would have to lock the doors to keep them away.